Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're excited to be joined by Distinguished Professor of Theater and Dance, Michelle Ellsworth, this evening. A quick note about the Zoom settings for tonight's event. All attendee lines will be muted throughout the lecture. To submit your questions or to seek technical support, please send your questions and comments to the chat box. We may not have time to get to all of your questions, but we'll certainly do our best to address the themes and ideas that are most common. Finally, this lecture will be recorded and posted on the association's website at www.colorado.edu/retiredfaculty. And now please welcome Chair of the Association, David Kasoy.
I'm pleased tonight to have an opportunity to introduce the Retired Faculty Association Distinguished Professor Series of presentations. Tonight's contribution by Michelle Ellsworth is the 5th in the series, and there are many more to come. I'm pleased to introduce Jad Tank, a performing artist and choreographer, who will introduce Professor Ellsworth directly. Jad has an interesting background. He has a BA in International Affairs from the Boulder campus and a BFA in Dance and Performance Arts from the Boulder campus. Jad, I call upon you to do the introduction to Professor Ellsworth.
Thank you very much, David. Hi, everyone. It is nice to meet you live. Nice to Zoom with you. So I have the honor and the privilege to introduce Michelle, who is a dear friend, colleague, professor, mentor, just everything, all-encompassing relationship that I get to have with Michelle, to you all. Michelle is an American dancer and performance artist and a distinguished professor in the Department of Theater and Dance. Her work employs absurdist humor, carpentry, technology, monologue, and dance. I like emphasizing that. Michelle has received, among many awards, the Doris Duke Artist Award 2019, Guggenheim Fellowship, Doris Duke Impact Award, the NIFA National Dance Project Grant twice, Creative Capital Fellowship, and USA Artists Night Fellowship in Dance. She's received 3 National Performance Network Creation Fund commissions, has performed all over the world, and has been teaching in CU since 1998. I just want to little quote here, one of my favorites. This is from Sean Patrick Carney in Dark Eco Comedy, Austin's Fusebox Festival in 2019. Sean wrote, "Ellsworth has somehow squeezed an unreasonable amount of late capitalism's extant anxieties into one of the most affecting performances I've seen in years. The rehearsal artist made visible a century's worth of social accelerants stoking the Anthropocene, all in the time it takes most of us to get to our jobs. It is, I say this with sincerity, an important work." I've had the pleasure of being a part of the rehearsal artists, so I like sharing that quote because it feels good for me too, my little spirit as well. So, with that said, Michelle, I pass the Zoom baton on to you.
Hi everyone. Thanks for checking in, and this isn't my. I like making work a lot, and sharing work is a little trickier for me. But I'd like to share with you some of the things I've been working on that are most conducive to share in this kind of context where we're on Zoom. So I'm going to show you some web-based work rather than try and show you video of performance on the stage, but actually work that was intended for this kind of the tyranny of this particular rectangle that we all know as our screens. Let's see. I'd like to say that before I start, I want to acknowledge that I both live and work on land that's within the territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho people, and that I acknowledge the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up Colorado. I'm super grateful to be on this land and grateful to the stewards who oversee it and have. I'm gonna start by, I'm just gonna show you around one particular neighborhood. And because this is, how do I say, because this is I can't seem to, I'm gonna find back my, okay, good. Because this is what this is, I can stop anytime and you can ask me questions anytime, or you can save them to the end. So I'm gonna like pretend at a certain point that I'm alone and I'm just in my own neighborhood. But Jad, at any point you can unmute your don't hesitate to unmute yourself and say, Ellsworth, please, could you go back there or anything? I'm just open to that. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen now and tell you what I've been thinking. So this is the transition of, I'm now sharing. This is just gonna be 1 second till I'm ready for doing that. Okay, I'm gonna share that. Oh, let's see what this is. Okay, here we go. Nope, I wanna share that, which I think looks like that. So I think you're now on slides. I hope that's right. Jad, unmute and tell me if I'm not where I think I am at any time. But I think that I'm on a slide with some Greek on it. And now I'm gonna tell you what I've been thinking. I'm gonna talk to you about some of my concerns and some of my efforts I've been having lately to solve some problems that I have been experiencing, and maybe you have been experiencing for a number of reasons in a number of contexts, but they have to do with the dangers of surveillance and data collection. And it's a topical issue for many of us in many contexts, whether it's, yep, I don't even need to say, you know what I'm talking about. So I want to talk about the most dangerous of what I consider the most dangerous surveillance collection systems. The first one, of course, would have to be the internet, because its very purpose is to share and save information, even when you don't want it to do. It's doing that. And then two, the other most dangerous data collection and neighborhood, I think, are humans. They are often listening, but they are consistently insecure. That's been my experience with them. It's the inversion of the internet, always insecure and not always listening, whereas the other internet is the inverse or more flexible. So in my identification of the internet and humans as problematic, I also find them both, well, I would say somewhat valuable and entertaining. And I didn't want to get rid of them altogether, again, because they're kind of handy in certain situations to do. So I wanted to do something that could kind of mitigate the impact of humans and the internet's surveillance and its associated troubles. And I'm going to propose two things. One is I made a completely freestanding, completely offline personalized internet. Again, I don't want to give up the internet, but if I don't want to be online, the only way to avoid being online, to do Trojan horses, to do all of those neighborhoods, or Google or Facebook collecting data, I thought it would be safest to just go ahead and make a replica of the internet for myself. And you may be thinking, oh, that sounds ridiculous and not a good idea. Actually, it wasn't that hard. And I'll show you what that looks like. And I offer a money back guarantee on it. It's really been super valuable to me. And then, so that online eradicates internet-based vulnerabilities of being vulnerable to being watched and also being fed false information. And then my second solution was the one having to do with people. And I thought, why don't I just create a series of video recordings of myself impersonating the people that I talk to most frequently. And that, of course, so again, eliminates the consequences of, again, some people aren't listening, but when they do, it can be trouble. And you say, how can you live without the people and without the internet? And I'm like, it's not that bad. It's pretty cool. It protects myself from uninvited surveillance and influences and increases my personal agency. And I have found the way I built it is actually incredibly satisfying to my emotional needs. So that's the motive that started me down this path. So the first thing that I did was make a replica of a website called Pandora that some of you know, and it's just super handy. And the way it works is, I'm going to mute the music here, but I have album covers and I can click all of the buttons that you see anywhere on the Pandora site are totally live. So I can order things from Amazon, or I can go over here and look at buying the album cover. And so there's a companion website for Gorgon Sisters records. And as we're going through this, you'll notice that there are many references to Clytemnestra, and we don't have enough time for me to explain why I identify with Clytemnestra. In short, she proved herself she was an utter failure for conforming to the category of a good citizen, killing the king. And because her husband Agamemnon, just quick refresher, Clytemnestra kills King Agamemnon when he comes home from the war. And Troy, she kills him in the bathtub. And because he was the king and not just her husband, it's considered a political act. So you'll see a lot of Clytemnestra in Greek references as well, and that's because of that. But so this is just how it works. I can just go anywhere I want. I don't even really know where to start. I'm just going to start jumping around. So here's a website called Daedalus's Sister's Replacement Apparatus. And again, the idea here is I don't want to be online, because if I'm online, I'm vulnerable being fed information or data being collected on me. So this is all just running off of my laptop. It looks real and it functions in a real way, but it's safe, which I think is super handy. So here's a website, Daedalus's Sister's Replacement Apparatus. Click here to shop for the emotionally absent man, shop here to shop for the physically absent man. And then here are some replacement apparatus, because again, I'm thinking about Clytemnestra and Agamemnon being gone. There was a long war, 9 years, and a lot of us have had relationships regrettably not dissimilar to that. So some of these come there. Here's a video demo of something I really like. It's a male gaze simulator. It's a giant eyeball that can track your motion wherever you go. You can put it in the living room, you can put it anywhere. And at first you may think, oh, why would you want something like that? Male gaze, but I thought it might be handy. So that's why that's there. But again, all of those things can be bought, and they really can be bought, but that's another story. But I can go there, there, but they all link. I'm not going to go back to the PayPal page, but so if I go here, these are just some neighborhoods that, let me show you this one. So again, one of the downsides of living offline and not interacting with other people is the not being in touch with nature. And so I made this website here. It's called The Mower, and it allows me to simulate a kind of an outdoor grass mowing experience. And this scroller here changes the width of the mower to get my, I'm getting my fix there, or here. I'm still super Apple dependent. I'm just going to show you some accessories that, again, some of these websites are replicas of existing websites, and I've added things to them, like like for Clytemnestra, no doubt an iTub would be handy, and the iKnife, and Wi-Fi enabled columns, and like a package to protect your marriage, to do all of things, but also garments, and outfits and shoes. So I'll just, these are things that I think Clytemnestra, if I'm navigating, this one here, it has a hands-free device. So I don't have to type things out, and building the thing into that was super handy. I'm just going to show you a few more, and we can pause on all of these, but this idea of building and coping strategies for being, without people. Again, if you really want to, people talk about the dangers of surveillance, and these two steps, completely offline internet, which I'm showing you now, and not talking to real people, but rather only recordings of yourself, solves a lot of problems, but you miss the kind of the material interaction of other people. So I built some websites, like this is an example of burger craft and torture. And the idea is that if you're interacting with, it's meat, it was a mammal, and it's just another way of engaging with flesh if I'm not actually interacting with people. And so these are just different proposed crafts that one could do. And then I'll show you torture. And again, you might be thinking, why would you do such a thing? And it's, again, because it takes the edge off. And again, trying to make an internet that meets the emotional needs of Clytemnestra. And these are just some torture options, to do tar and feathering, to do just some things like that, which I have always thought would be handy. So we keep getting these pop-up windows, which makes it super easy. There's a bunch of different burger options for ordering burgers, because Clytemnestra clearly has a relationship with burgers. Let me show you, let's see, okay, let me just stop and say for 1 second, let me show you how the video calls work. So what I did here is I'm going down to my settings. I'm going to Skype, my Skype settings, and you'll see that I have different groups set up. And for the purposes of demonstrating my relationship to these videos that I've made. And so, of course, you're going to recognize me that I am playing Agamemnon, Helen, Aegisthus, and Penelope. But that didn't seem like a problem. So I pick who I want to talk to. I can pick the duration of the call and how often they come. And then I can pick the source. So I was super overwhelmed when I started this idea of like, how am I going to replicate all of these phone calls that I have with other people? And I thought, you know what, let's just go to one of those early texts, like the Iliad, and remix some of that language. So when I show you these video phone calls in which I'm pretending to be these other people, all of the text was it was taken from Robert Fitzgerald's translation of the Iliad, just kind of remixed for Clytemnestra's purposes. So maybe I'll close that and show you what a call like that would look like. So here's like what it would look like. And again, I can set these calls to come in whenever I want. Okay, here we go. Aegisthus, my husband's loathed and exiled cousin, many harvests have passed since word of you reached this quiet domicile. I'm totally curious. Why now, cousin? Why? Why are you calling now? I'm just, what?
Clytemnestra, my pretense is thus. I am preparing a feast for the noblemen of distinction in my town. And I remember your legs of lamb were prepared in such a way as to make men tremble.
Okay.
And wish only to know how it
enough. Okay.
So succulent the legs that
I'm glad you called, and I know the recipe of which you speak. And you don't have the recipe that is famous in my maternal line. You're welcome to have it, cousin. It's totally fine. First of all, you take the legs and spread them evenly over the pit of glowing fire. That's so you just take the secret really lies in covering the legs with supple skins to trap in the juice and flavors. Okay, so boom. So I can get off that call whenever I want. So it could go on and we could exchange recipes. And those that are familiar with the story of the Oresteia by Aeschylus, Clytemnestra hooks up with Aegisthus. And I'm just gonna show you what a few other people I talk to consistently. And again, you're thinking, don't you get bored having the same conversations? Because of these ideas around archetypes, whether you're thinking Levi Strauss or Carl Jung, this idea that there are these conversations, and maybe you know what I'm talking about, the one you have with your mother over and over and over again. You can kind of automate them to a certain extent, and you're not sad about it. So I'm just going on these kind of archetypal characters and these conversations that happen that give you the buzz that you need. So let me just show you what, let me show you, this is Helen.
Clytemnestra, it is I, your younger and more voluptuous sister Helen, here to bid greeting and earn your...
Thanks, Helen. I'm glad you called.
Tell the news,
listen,
sister.
Aegisthus just called. I know it's crazy, right? And I haven't heard from Agamemnon in a fortnight, and I itch to know how my war-worn husband fareth, because he hasn't called. I don't know what's going on. You tell.
Rumor here in the palace of Troy is that
no.
there's a plague
oh my
that
gosh.
devours willy-nilly
broken,
our noble and
ghastly,
virile
broken
men.
heart. Oh, a plague? What could be worse? I can't. I'm so stressed. No, I am stressed.
Aye, but do not be shaken over
Yeah.
much. Agamemnon
I
bore him to be no milksop.
Sister, I would,
Worry
but I
not
pray
on
you
your
speak the
brave
truth, but a
warrior.
persistent fear beats its wings ceaselessly and close against my heart. I go now and await my great-lunged husband's report. Thanks for the update, but I gotta go. I'm not thinking about Aegisthus. Okay, farewell.
Farewell then.
So again, Helen calls. If I want that kind of buzz I feel connected to family and and I don't have to worry that my sister is going to say something that I said about my husband or the call from my new potential lover Aegisthus to anybody, which is great. But I get a call like that, but I built in, right? So again, people that remember the Iliad well, there's the plague, the end. So I built a playlist that can address these things. So I get a call from Helen where she's super stressed. And I'm just going to pause that, but that would be the worried music. And then I can start shopping, which again is a pretty common coping strategy. So I might click on this button here where lamentation dances with tubes. Because again, Martha Graham did a lot of research with the tubes, and it's how effective it is in terms of lamenting and grieving. But if I haven't, yet purchased a tube, I can click here and go to lamentation dances without tubes. And so again, you're like, wait, I thought you were a dancer, you're a professor of distinction in dance. Where is the dance? Sometimes I don't feel like dance. And again, this is where the online websites are handy, is that I can watch myself dancing in other outfits. And it's kind of a vicarious, my heart rate was going very strong. It's not going right now, but when I made these dances, they were, which is handy. So I can do these until the order comes. Okay, I'm just going to show you a few other people here. But what I want to do actually is go now to settings before I show you any. I'd like to introduce you to Agamemnon and to Helen, both, or Penelope rather. But I also put into the system preferences for this offline internet to solve my fears about surveillance and misinformation, some personality controls rather. So I didn't want, I mean, so much of the online world, you're just like free range and nobody's paying attention. I wanted to build into my system some kind of personality controls. So you can choose whether you want your super ego or your id active, and then you can increase or decrease your levels of guilt, shame, and judgment, same with the id. And then you can also choose your external, you know, how your personality control looks. And you can like slide along this spectrum here to see what kind of look you want. And I find that I like, let's see, this one maybe is, let's see, let's see which one I think would be good. Yeah, let's go with this one. But again, this idea that you're not just out there alone. And so you can set up your personality control to interrupt you at any time during your online navigation. And again, so this is I made this for Clytemnestra. I'm thinking what's going to happen. And again, I could go ahead and order an Atlas burger if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that now, but that's always an option. Clytemnestra, she's going to kill her husband, and then her son, Orestes, is going to kill her. And I think a lot of this is her setting up kind of what I call over-the-counter counter-terrorism protocols to avoid being, murdered for her own actions that ultimately, of course, she's accountable for, but are not without justification. But so to be offline is also just a major security thing for her. Let me just show you a few more. Here is Agamemnon, just to give you a quick look. Agamemnon, I rejoice at your sight. I've lifted my palms to the gods who keep the plague afar, but here it is for naught that our soldiers, that they die in heaps. How's everything going? I feel worried. A plague, tell me more. Yeah, tell me more. What? Yes.
Death.
Yes.
Plague.
No, what could be worse than that?
There is worse than that.
So immediately Agamemnon starts being fussy, and that's when I just have to say, again, a demonstration of why this situation works so well. If you were really talking to your said husband, and they started doing that whiny thing, it would be awkward to just shut the Skype window, but in this context, no, it's totally good. Nobody's offended. I have the agency it helps with my borders and so many other issues, which is great. And let me just show you Penelope really quick. Penelope, wife of the bantam versatile Odysseus, have you heard, as I have heard, of the plague that infests our soldiers' battlefield and from which none turn away from death's hard fall? Have you heard about this? It sounds awful. I can't believe it. It's just terrible.
Odysseus just called to report the consumption of what is
it's a catastrophe. It's total.
Troops.
What?
Have you
what?
heard, as I have heard, that Agamemnon has taken for his own Achilles?
No, Penelope, no. I have not heard this. He did not mention, I was just talking to him and he didn't mention it. So.
Well, Agamemnon was left without his portion when he returned Croesus, a girl with a flawless throat, to her distraught father, in order to appease Apollo and in the plague.
And then again, the shame-induced conversation with the friend who points out your husband's infidelities and lack of integrity. That happens. I think, I need to go. I need to look around. I need something. Maybe I go to. We've been to Unhot Husband already, but that would be an excellent choice. But I might go to like Less Worried or Marriage Reinforcement. So again, I'll pause it here, but I'm trying to be a good wife. I might go to burger-based emotional surrogates, and there's some dances that could be done with burgers. Again, looking for burger-based solutions to problems. Trying to build for Clytemnestra a bunch of options. Here's Interpersonal Drones. This was based on the idea that hiding in art is very handy. So one of the solutions is to live in a completely blue box and then project out into the world these other contexts. So here I am on one side, but here I am inside an wife painting. Here I am again hiding in art. on this side, hiding in an eyebrow on this side, something that is legible to the culture. And artists have done it for a long time, hiding in art, but this is again an anti-surveillance technique. And here's Jad right there. So thanks, Jad. So okay, but I do want to interact sometimes with the world. Okay, so now I'm doing that thing where I'm like, I need to say hi to Jad for a second. Okay, hi Jad. Are you okay?
Yeah, all is good. All is good.
I'm just showing you around Clytemnestra's neighborhood. So you're okay?
It's great. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna pause this, but I do sometimes want to interact in the larger context. So I made a few things that Clytemnestra can reach out to the world via the mail or online. One of them is this thing I invented, passive aggressive pastries. And I'll just show you how to do this. You make cookie dough, you shape it into letters like this. I know someone emotionally immature, you bake it, and in the baking, and this is a really amazing New York Times recipe that I highly recommend. The dough melts together and it gets kind of brittle, and then you cut it into these boxes and then you mail it to someone and you place in the mail. That's just an example of getting the fact that I don't want to be totally irrelevant or invisible, but maybe a little. Here's, as you guys know, Agamemnon continues to be kind of difficult. And so I might, want to learn about, you saw where I was at murder. So I could turn here and do all sorts of research about, murder dances, but we're not going to go there right now. But I have this website called, let's see, here we are, National Security Artists, where I made a bunch of AMSR videos where I access the insecure files of people's servers. And this is very common. People have all this information on the cloud, and I find insecure servers and download photos of their family, and I print them out where I blur their faces. And I know it's really loud because that's AMSR, but I blur their faces and then I destroy the files. And it's almost too loud, so I can barely, I think because it's too loud, so I'm gonna do that. But I print out people's files from their insecure folders and I destroy them either by fire or by food or by water. And then I upload a video of their destroyed files and say, hey, I know some of you don't like, maybe you're not really into art, but I just want to use art as the tool to identify your lack of security. Again, I have the luxury and privilege of creating an offline internet, but for people that don't, I kind of wanted to put this out there. I'm just gonna go down here a little bit. So this one is super helpful. This is a texting system for texting Homer. So I made a chat bot so I can text Homer and ask him questions like, what is going on with my husband, Agamemnon, and I send it, and then Homer will text back so that I can kind of interrogate and Homer has kind of it's a little misogynistic, his responses, but hey, I am listening. I don't want to be defensive, but I just want to acknowledge that I don't appreciate that. So Homer's inherently misogynistic because the chat, so it's just like, wow, thanks. So the thing about the chatbot is it was trained with these okay, so the chatbot, a lot of these chatbots were trained on language on the internet. And so the failure of the chatbot to be more humane is actually just a reflection of the core text, I would have to say, including Homer, that is a little problematic. So we see those seeds. And so I didn't have any impulse to change it because it clearly came from that. This is Prometheus's liver burger. Let me just go here. Loyalty dances, again, when I'm trying to be more loyal. So here's an interesting one, that when I get stressed, I have a couple options. I can go to, or I start to hyperventilate. I can go here and click on pharmaceutical art. And these are micro art projects that I've been making that fit inside little teeny gel caps, and they're all vegan and edible. Here's some sunscreen that has sand already put in it. These are just a couple of the other options these are olives from a tree outside of my house in Mycenae, and that would be an option as a coping strategy. Pharmaceutical art, that's something Deschamps mentioned about artists and people that consume art as self-medicating. And I was like, yes, please sign me up. But I also made a TED Talk.
I grew up to study hyperventilation.
And I wonder, okay, based on it, the idea of making myself my own TED Talks, it's just that sometimes, I loved TED when I was online, and I thought that it would be great to make replicas of TED Talks or kind of hybrid combinations. But I often go to a TED Talk to reinforce what I already want to hear. And again, that's the whole nature of the internet. It can be so solipsistic. So rather than go, scrolling through a bunch of different TED Talks, I'm like, you know what? I know what I want to hear already. Just say it and let the red logo and the red carpet reinforce or legitimize or validate my experience. And that's all this is here. But again, super handy. I'm feeling stressed, not a problem. Go there. So I want to show you a few other things here. Let's just I'm going to pause this. Before we go here, I'm going to show you a couple things. Well, I'm going to go to Google just to show you that I went ahead and made a Google. Nothing. So I might feel like nothing is working. So I can go here and look at some options. And I like to think that Odysseus got the idea for the Trojan horse from a horse-based dress. I can click here to look at more horses. And again, because shopping is such a big part of it, here is a bunch of different outfits. And you can see how deep that I tried to make all of these websites go. A Pythagoras dress that solves problems. Just another option for Clytemnestra. I don't know if many of you are using Tinder or not, but the idea of like being able to say no to both yourself, it's ultimately that kind of relationship. But here's also, and this was an exact replica of one. And we don't have to look at this, but it's International House of Wives when Clytemnestra is considering, hooking up with other people. I just thought I'd mention that. So again, Clytemnestra is like interested in the technology, worried about their surveillance, worried about the nature of capitalism and its impact on many things, but also engaged. So I had her make a NFT, a non-fungible token of a dance for wood camera. It's a dance that's shot on a wood camera. And I can go deeper into any of these, but I'm just going to try and explain this because it's part of Clytemnestra's world, is just this longing to be contemporary and part of the NFT buzz that you read about all the time. So I minted for Clytemnestra 3 JPEG NFTs, but I didn't want to participate in the greenhouse gas emission of the mining that is required to validate transactions on the blockchain. So I thought if I just mint the NFT, but then I don't, but if it's owned by a rock, then it can never be sold or transferred and no more greenhouse gases would be emitted. So I make these NFTs. And again, it's a dance for a wood camera. You can see it being shot here. So much dancing. It's just that, again, the camera as surveillance, the wood camera really solves those surveillance problems. And we can talk about that if you want, but made an NFT. So each NFT, I think you guys know, it has a distinct digital, it has a distinct, signature that authorizes or validates its unique ownership, and it lives in a digital wallet, and you have to have the key to the wallet to sell or transfer that. And so I printed out the key, and there's only one, and I put it in a little metal capsule, rolled it up, and then I put it inside a rubber mold inside that capsule, and then turned this mold. It's a rock mold, and it's a rock mold that I used to put hamburgers in when I was experimenting with other forms of burger torture. But it goes ahead and makes a rock, and then I leave it in nature. And again, there's the, dancer and Greek queen Clytemnestra make NFT. That seemed important, but not something that I wanted to do. Here's an IKEA page I made. So let's pause that music. But I can totally get my angry dance on here. I can go to IKEA, and a lot of my solutions are, in fact, technology based, but I want some wood based. So I made this Adirondack chair that she can hide in. And again, it's so simple, but again, I don't want to have all of my solutions be just whatever, technology can fail. So I wanted to make sure that a wood chair, there was some wood-based things. And here's just some other furniture. And here's one that you can buy hiding in a table. So that's me in a table. So again, wanting to avoid surveillance, super handy. I made a New York Times simulator because that was definitely something I missed. And this is using a Markov chain, and it's just language prediction, super easy. Fed it a bunch of New York Times articles. It looks just like the New York Times. And I picked the topics and I changed, different leaders' names to be, to Agamemnon, whoever's super easy to manipulate. And it can populate indefinitely. My internet's a little, not my internet, my processor is a little worked right now, so it's not making too much content, but it really can generate indefinitely, which is handy. I also wanted to make a, we could go back to here and say, oops, let's see what's going on here. We could go back here and look at, it's that my New York Times page keeps giving me a little trouble, but to do Google, there's so many things I could search in Google, but we don't need to do that. I'm gonna go over here to Twitter and just show you another thing that I made for Clytemnestra, because at a certain point with regard to surveillance and people, I kept thinking, is it the technology? Is it the people? And then I'm like, is there something that's preceding the technology and the people that is really to blame? And I kind of decided that there was, and it was language. And so I made a Twitter page committed to creating post-verbal social networks, of finding new ways of interacting with language. And let me see if I can find, so these are, so let's go here to language disposal topics. And let's see, these are, okay, great. This is, I want to show you this. I don't even know where this is, but there's a shusher that, let's see. I wonder where the shusher is. Let's see, can't really remember. Maybe it's under the power of music. I made a bunch of instruments that can only be played with a bunch of dancers, but I don't see it there. This is a generative adversarial network making a band, weaning yourself from language. It's gotta be here, so hold on. Okay, no, wow. Oh, here's a kinetic alphabet that I made. Wow, really don't know where that thing I wanted to show you was, but anyways, it's one of my favorite things. It's a shusher. Whenever I talk, it just says shh. And if I talk more, it just says shh. And I actually this week have been working on an app version that you could download from the App Store, where you just open the app, and if there's any talking, it shushes you and continues to shush you until you stop. Again, because sometimes I think ultimately the language is the problem, the way, it makes you lie and misrepresent. It's handy, I get it. So those are just some of the neighborhoods. There's many more things to show, and I think I'm going to stop there. I think that what's going to happen is after this is over, I'm going to be like, oh, I forgot to show, I should have showed something more relevant. But what I will say now is that I'm not sad about my time in Clytemnestra's universe, where she's just navigating her completely offline internet and having Skype calls with these, with herself dressed up like other people, using these archetypal types of personalities and language to take the edge off. And I just think surveillance and people and the internet are dangerous, and that there's a lot of ways that we are vulnerable. And this was just one of my thoughts about how to, safety first, do. So I just thought I'd share you that much. And then if you want, I can go into details more about anything you saw or any questions in any neighborhood. But I thought I'd just show you some of that world of a dancer trying to solve problems in the neighborhood. So there, I have closure in that.
Thanks, Mish.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. Kayang has a question. Will Clytemnestra venture into TikTok?
Oh, that's very interesting. Dance is such a big part of TikTok. I think she would love that. I think absolutely. I would love her to be, yeah, absolutely.
Michelle, it's interesting. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
like when I think about what I would do in TikTok is I think I would take a lot of those videos as potential training data for a generative adversarial network, a kind of a machine learning AI system that could perpetually make new content on TikTok. So again, using the technology, harvesting the data of existing, and then making a situation where I can go again offline and that it can just perpetually populate content using a generative adversarial network would be probably my first choice on how to handle TikTok for Clytemnestra.
That's so great. I would be great to be swiping through TikTok and to randomly see Clytemnestra on there. I think that'd be surprising. There's something interesting that keeps coming up for me is that you're navigating these very current perspectives on the internet. You know what I mean? Like the expanse of the internet, how you can just spend hours and hours and hours on it. And the content is just constantly generating. The idea of surveillance, the idea of, you know, being watched while you partake in this thing that's very private, because you are experiencing this thing in the comfort of your own home, in the privacy of your own space, and yet you are being watched in that sense. So you have this technology that you're working with, and then the content. You know, I mean, you're sourcing from the Iliad, you're sourcing from ancient Greek mythology. You know, you're sourcing from something that is so far in the past. So I was wondering if there's a way that you can connect those two.
Yeah,
for us.
I guess I think that how shall I say it? So like even like the choice to use Pandora for my music platform, like again, these references to these archetypes feels relevant, and the questions of technology, a lot of the Greeks, a lot of the logic that kind of what we think of as Eurocentric logic about progress and about individuality that I think has gotten the planet into a lot of trouble. A lot of it comes from some premises that were set in play by Plato and Aristotle in terms of how important the body is or how irrelevant the body is, or how art functions. So with regard to Plato and the Republic, if you all think of Book 10, where he talks about how artists can't be in his utopia because they're making replicas of things. Remember Plato's idea about the ideal form existing out there, and that there's a table, but the table that we are experiencing, my computer is sitting in, is a replica of an ideal form of a table, and that a carpenter will make a table, which is a replica of an ideal form, but an artist is going to paint a replica of the replica of the replica. And Plato is just like, those artists, you can't trust them. They can deceive small children into thinking that a painting of a carpenter is actually a carpenter. And so he says they can't even be in the utopia at all. And then if you look at the allegory of the cave and the idea of, and that's in book 7 of where, if you all remember, I'm sure you do, the prisoners, that's us chained in the cave, looking at a wall. We can't turn around. There's a fire behind us. People are walking across in front of the fire behind us, casting shadows on the wall. And then we think that's what's real. And I find that question of what is real, whether it's in VR or where AI comes into the conversation, is super important. And so I just feel like those questions set up some problems around those Greeks and their priorities that got really embraced by a bunch of people, have led to a lot of injustice and systemic racism and a focus on a certain kind of progress that centers a certain kind of mind and decenters the body. And as a dancer, I find technology is embedded with some of that logic. And so the Greeks, I'm always going to, I grieve. Their impact is, it's not the romance some people have. How do I say? Yeah, I think those premises that got set up have led to a lot of misogyny, a lot of colonization, and a lot of racism, and a lot of injustice. And I see some of the logic of some of those threads showing up in technology. And so to me, they're natural places to say, like, these things that we think are so great, like technology, oh, it's so handy. And I use AI in my work often. I use machine learning. I use we're working on a VR piece this week, but it's not because I love it. And my use of the Greeks is, again, it's not because I love it, but I know that it's having a huge impact on bodies all over the world. And that as a dancer, addressing what that impact is worth attempting to look at.
And so there's a question from Bob. So then does this website that you built out, does that use machine learning and AI?
It does. Yeah, there is definitely. So there's a couple places that I didn't spend very much time in because they take so long. But in the post-verbal social network, there's a cellular automaton that is using kind of an algorithmic generative art process that is creating a cellular, it's John Conway's Game of Life. If there's any CS people in the house, I tried to make a situation that could perpetually generate content. Again, that's a reoccurring thing. I did it. I started making generative art projects when I was going up for tenure, trying to flush out my CV. I need help. But I've kept going with that. And then also in the pharmaceutical art, I use some GPT-3 and I use mostly GPT-2 language generation software because I was writing poetry that was one of a kind as a form of medicine that I put in and I also used some Big Sleep, a lot of open AI stuff I used in the pharmaceutical art. I got a gig where I had to make 1,500 pieces of these micro gel caps, and I was trying to make each one suck as little as possible. And at a certain point I was overwhelmed. And so my mistress said, why don't you make some placebos? And that's when I started using some AI to facilitate the process.
And is the website available to view, or is it Clytemnestra? It's on.
It's funny. No, it really isn't. I think there's an old version somewhere that exists because I had an idea that it should be accessible, but I always kept adding content that it's definitely not up to date, but yeah.
Speaking of Clytemnestra, it is through your body, it is on your body, it is within your body. All the content is being built out on your body. What is that like?
Mm-hmm. So part of it was just my experience with the internet as it's such a self-referential world where we're validating the assumptions that we already have, and that now that these both shopping algorithms and everything, they anticipate your needs. And so I thought to quit the pretense of anything other than the narcissism of the system. And also I didn't want to presume to represent anyone else. That's a thing for me. It felt important to be freestanding, that if Clytemnestra really was going to avoid the trouble she needed. I'm not doing a good job answering this question, but I started as a solo artist for sure. And I've been working with more dancers in the last, I guess, decade. But there's always that sense of keeping it all in house and keeping it contained. But anyways, that's kind of actually a perfect segue, because I would, in this last little bit, I would love to introduce you to Jad Tank's work, because I feel like when people ask me, since I mentioned that I've been working with dancers in the last 10 years, Jad was the first person I could ever imagine working with as a dancer. And we were, Jad was a student, and I had been making a faculty piece, and it was called the Hamburg Variations. And in rehearsal, I would often look to Jad and be like, is this a good idea, or is this? And I just knew aesthetically that we had some similarities. And I find myself always wanting to work with dancers that are really fully formed as artists, that have their own thing, and that have the generosity of spirit of Jad Tank to come to my neighborhood. So if you don't mind, I would love to pivot and ask you about your work. And I did trick Jad ever so slightly to ask him to prepare showing just a little bit of his work, because again, what's so cool about being in the university is the conversations that we have with people across campus, with people within our department. I was so honored with this distinguished professor business, which was kind of utterly unimaginable as any external validation has ever been in the world of my experience. But how much of the work that I have made has been with other CU faculty all over campus, environmental science and geology and CS, and of course, theater and dance, but also with my students. And so I feel like I wouldn't have been able to make so much of this work. And the work that I made after Phone Homer was a piece called Litigation, where Jad was actually my body double, and I was hiding in a little box, and Jad was executing things in my behalf, again, to try and keep Clytemnestra safe. So Jad, if you'll forgive me, can we look at, will you share your screen, and can you just show us some of your work and just tell us what you're working on? Because again, it's this combination of community and would just love to ask you about yours.
Absolutely. I do want to real quick just say something that I think what's interesting in the work of seeing yourself being the body in all of the internet is that it is this almost self-masturbatory. Like, you know, anyone who goes on the internet, when you search for something, you already kind of know what the answer is in many ways. You're looking for it for yourself, and so it's very narcissistic in that sense, which yeah. is which was nice to see, with the body constantly showing up in each video, and all the content was the same body. Thanks, Mish. I mean, I can safely, I'm a student of Mish for life. I'm just a for life student of Michelle Ellsworth. And it's so easy for me to say that I'm constantly and forever inspired by Michelle's work. And you're amazing. I'm going to be that person that's like, she's amazing.
He's amazing. This is, yeah, that's.
It's interesting as a queer Middle Eastern body to have so much in common with you. And I find that to be one of the most fascinating kind of spectrums to be able to dance on.
Likewise, thank you.
I guess I can just show a little tiny bit. I think I can. I hope I can share screen. Do you see anything?
Yes.
I'm a very interdisciplinary artist, with dance being the thing that I like to do most, the language through which I like to speak the most. I currently am working with a company based out of Lebanon called Iliad, and we're a social enterprise company, and we work with all things movement based and dance based, including onboarding dancers to the world of business and legal issues through movement artist training programs. But recently, during the pandemic, we launched Glimpses of a Future, which was a docu-series that we did just during the pandemic, asking writers to reimagine the future. And then they would send the text to dancers, and the dancers would then interpret that writing with disagreeing, agreeing, just interpreting through dance. And then that footage came to us, and then we did the editing and everything. And then it was a very small, humble project that was it was kind enough to be taken on by Netflix, actually, which is really nice. So if you ever have the chance and you want a Netflix, please do go on there.
And I've watched this. Everyone should watch it. It's tender and centralizes the body during this pandemic. It's really beautiful. And you just search for that title in Netflix and it shows up. And you'll see Jad dancing in the first episode.
I've done things like music videos, which I love to do, especially out in Beirut. Waltz was this installation by Tara and Tessa, who are they're architects based out of Lebanon, and the idea of the wall was just essentially, it had to do with this idea of being displaced and being incapable of accessing a certain space geographically. POV is my little gem. It's my heart and soul. POV is a performance that I built out also in Beirut, Lebanon, in Citerne, Beirut. It was my way of bridging the worlds of visual art and dance in a way that was accessible to an audience from a spectatorship perspective. So I was really curious about the idea of witnessing and how witnessing can be extracted, just outwards essentially. So the audience is watching visual artists watch dance, and so they're watching the interpretation of the dance while also interpreting the dance themselves. So it's this kind of fun merger, which I can show a little video of real quick. Don't know if you can hear it. Oh, maybe not. There we go. Anyways, you get the gist of it. It's really fun. I'll be doing a residency in Houston with it, and ideally this is something that actually exists and lives on its own, and it becomes a really good merger and bridging between dance and the visual arts world just for life. Eventually, it's going to go to Art Basel. That's there. That's in the back pocket. I'm feeling it. But anyways, that's I don't want to say too much more. I have a full imagination that I work with, and that wouldn't have happened had I not, you know, not to toot the horn, but had I not gone to see you and you know, taken the leap of faith and joined the dance department, which I never thought I would do since I was an international affairs student. But it was professors like Michelle who just looked at me and they were like, "You're a dancer. you're a dancer at heart. You might do politics, but you're a dancer at heart." So yeah, thanks, Mish.
And I really love that what you're saying about that those aren't mutually exclusive, to engage in a really profound and meaningful way where the body and the geopolitical intersect. It's not a strange leap. It's what dancers really can make a unique contribution. And I see that in your work so profoundly to the discourse around, you know, everything. Yeah, we're super grateful for your work. Thanks, Jad.
Thanks, Mish. There's 3 minutes now.
Great. Any last question? Anything?
Any last questions?
Donna.
Yes, Donna.
Hi, Donna, my friend.
Hi. Hello. This was so refreshing and so delightful and so needed. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about this new project that you were saying is tickling the edges of your imagination. What's going on now?
Okay, that's so it's really funny, but Jad was in town for something else about a month ago, and he came to lunch and we were talking, and another one of our collaborators, Satchel Spencer, was over, who does a bunch of the programming for us. And I brought up the fact that I had this idea for a long time that we should make a dance-based cryptocurrency. And so we said, we should all get together and in a month and like try and flesh this idea out. And so Jad flew back and I'm like, well, we're working on that. There's so much programming involved in that effort, or at least the version that we imagined at the time, which didn't actually turn out being the version. And I'm like, well, let's also work on this VR piece, a VR piece. And so this week we've been working on a 3D, well, how do I say? I was sure I was making a 3D 360 VR piece. And I worked in the last month so much on trying to make this 3D camera work and give me any pleasure, but the novelty of that arena would wear off so quickly that I turned back to analog-based VR. So I've been making a series of wood-based real fake VR, if you can go there. And maybe what I'll do, Donna, for you is.
I think you muted Mish.
I'm going to take you to the garage really quick and just show you one of the headsets we're making. So just looking for an analog solution. And you can see this is a very large VR headset, and it gets rises off the ground, and a viewer sits inside, and there's actually real dancers inside the VR headset. And so again, I'm like looking at this technology and saying, is there an analog solution? Here's another one. This is a wood headset. Another wood-based VR situation where you're just scrolling paper in front of your eyes. So I'm deep in real fake VR. That's what I'm doing this week with Jad. And it's been really a pleasure. The other thing we've been doing this week is we're making an app. We're making an app called Isker. Isker, it's an interpersonal scorekeeper where it allows people to keep scores on their relationships. People always say, don't keep score. And I'm like, maybe we should, let's just see what that. So we did a lot of conceptual work, and Satchel's doing the programming on that this week, but people it's so exquisite to be a little post-COVID and be together. It's kind of amazing. It's been super beautiful. Thanks for asking, Donna.
So it's 8, so I do want to wrap this up. Time is precious, I know, for everyone, so thank you very much. I just want to pass it on to Dave to close us out.
Well, I'd like to thank Michelle and Jad for a very imaginative presentation, which from my take is a demonstration of the interaction between psychology, technology, and art performance. And I hope I'm right in that interpretation.
I think so.
But it's a very interesting take on the arts. and the way in which human behavior and technology have an impact on the arts. So bravo to you for that, and thank you very much for participating in our distinguished professor presentation series, and to everybody else. And I want to, oh, by the way, I have to thank Kim Malville and Bob Grossman for their commitment to making all of these things happen. They have done a phenomenal job of organizing the series and persuading people to participate in it. And I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart, so to speak. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Kim. Okay, friends, we'll see you next time. We have Leslie Linewan will be speaking in July, if my memory is right. And we hope to see you all again. Thank you very much. Good night.